Welcome back. In homes across Nigeria, you are most likely to find food condiments like Gino and the popular mayonnaise brand Bama. Well, let's tell you more about their manufacturers.
GBfoods Africa is a consortium of a strong global food player, GBfoods. Globally, GBfoods started as a concentrated stock cubes manufacturer in Barcelona during the Spanish Civil War. The birth of the Gallina Blanca brand in 1937 introduced the beginning of a long and exciting journey. In 1954, it diversified into new varieties and new formats, transitioning to the third generation and keeping the original essence of the family business values. In 1973, it began operation in Africa, growing its portfolio in local brands like Gino tomato paste, Pomo, bouillon cubes, curry powder, Bama and Jago mayonnaise, and lots more. Its historical brands in each country makes GBfoods products some of the most sought after in homes for several years. Today, with a turnover of around 1.2 billion euros and over 3,000 employees, GBfoods is present in more than 75 countries across Europe and Africa, including Spain, Italy, Germany, France, Belgium, the Netherlands, Russia, Sweden, Finland, Nigeria, Ghana, Algeria, and Senegal.
How has GBfoods survived being in business for almost a century? Let's hear more from the Managing Director of GBfoods Nigeria, Vincent Egbe.
We have very strong local brands, whether it's in Spain, or whether it's in Algeria, or whether it's in the Netherlands, or whether it's in Nigeria. So it's always been about serving consumers locally what they need versus just giving them an absolute global solution. And that's why we have stayed a part of everyday lives.
You have used the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals to create a roadmap for yourself in making sure there's a positive impact you're making on the society. Tell us more about this.
The Sustainable Development Goals basically stem from a significant or one keyword, sustainable. Sustainable means that communities where we operate and where we site our facilities or our projects are able to be prosperous societies. They're able to thrive. Health is very, very important from the SDGs. And many of the diseases that impact many of our rural farming communities are transmitted from the water that they take. And so we did a survey of the 16 communities around our farm. And we found, yes, they had challenges with getting basic water. They have been used to fetching water from the river and everything. And we provided boreholes in these 16 communities. And when you go to our factories, like the one we have in Bagada, the wastewater from the factory is as clean as swan water. Because we take our time to make sure that before the water leaves us as waste, we completely purify the water so that we leave a positive impact on the environment.
Your business is a culinary business, which means that you have to deal a lot with raw materials from farmers. Do you invest in these farmers, and how much have they benefited from what you do at GBfoods?
As you can see, we're one of the few what you can call multinationals where the leadership of the company is local. Is also something very critical to us, which is called local sourcing. Over and above the advantage of being protected from forex exposures and maybe currency devaluation over the long term, one of the critical elements behind our drive to invest in local sourcing is that we know that when we source locally, we are directly empowering homes and livelihoods. And so I'll give you an example. Bama has been in Nigeria for the longest possible time. It's the biggest mayonnaise brand in Africa. Okay? It's the biggest across sub-Saharan Africa. And a few months ago, maybe just about 3-4 months ago, we built the biggest mayonnaise factory in sub-Saharan Africa, right here in Nigeria, a few kilometers from here in Ogun State. And we are sourcing our soybeans, and one of the core components of mayo is oil, plant-based oil, like soy oil. We source 100% of that. And that's the biggest product. We source 100% of that from Nigeria. You think about our tomatoes. We are working on very solid outgrower programs. One of our biggest supporters have been the Central Bank of Nigeria, and we're very grateful to them. You know, the Central Bank has been transformational in terms of its transforming, smallholder farmers' fortunes by aggregating them around production companies and around key commodities that can supply the nation. And tomatoes is not an exception. We've had the opportunity to now work with farmers in Kaduna, in Katsina, and in Kebbi, and we're still expanding. And here, in working with these farmers, we are going beyond just sourcing. One of the critical challenges that the tomato industry faces in Nigeria is very low know-how, technical know-how of actually growing tomatoes, and as a result, we have low output and low yields. On average, when you go to any tomato growing country, we're the second largest in Africa, but when you go to any tomato growing country in the world, like Egypt, like Spain, Portugal, Ukraine, China, the US, the average yield from a farm is around 100 tons per hectare. When you come to Nigeria, the average yield is anywhere between 5 and 8 tons per hectare. Less than 10 times the global average. And it's due to the fact that the practices that grow tomatoes are pretty complex. And we are used to simple, non-mechanized, non-technology-based farming. One of the things we're doing here is transferring technology to the farmers. When we were starting our smallholder outgrower projects in Yauri, Ngaski, Wara, all those places in Kebbi, the first thing was giving them access to a water pump to make sure that they could actually pump water. Most people give them seeds. We grew the seeds into seedlings, investing in the first 30 days. Because one of the critical things about the yields of tomatoes is the first 30 days. The way they're managed will determine if the tomato plant is going to have 30 fruits or 5 fruits, which basically determines the yield. Because per hectare you have 35,000, so 35 times 20 or 35 times 5. Then we also show them how to manage, fertilizer, how to manage pests from when the first vectors of these diseases may crop up. So providing free extension service and also then being the market that they can supply. And in Nigeria, most of our tomato farmers use baskets. By the time you transport the tomato from one point to the other, the whole thing, half of the tomatoes are crushed. So we also provided free plastic crates, ensuring that post-harvest losses were to the very barest minimum, in fact, eliminating them almost completely. And for us, the way we look at it is like now, Nigeria is turning 60. One of the big challenges we're trying to give to ourselves is how can we empower 60,000 farmers in the coming few years? Because you think about the tomato industry in Nigeria, anything between 180 to 220,000 farmers in that landscape, more or less. And if we can empower as much as 1/3 of them, and then we'll all be able to build what we call sustainable value chains in partnership with the local communities, in partnership with the CBN, in partnership with the government. And as a result, what we're going to see is the boomerang effect of the prosperity.
Reducing poverty, improving education, and contributing to responsible production. These are some of the areas you pay lots of attention to. Tell us some of the projects and initiatives that have been carried out to touch these areas.
Let me start from the third one, responsible production. And I'm going to speak about water. Investing heavily in drip irrigation means that we are able to conserve the water for the families that surround our farms, that we don't have a water crisis in future. Now, I'm talking about reducing poverty. When we did our pilot factory and farm in Kaduna State, supported by His Excellency, the Governor of Kaduna State, we chose not to use automatic harvesters or automatic planters. Automatic seedling planters as well. We chose to do things manually. There's a small community there just behind the farm. And we sent in our economists to look. The ladies there, some of them were working for the very first time in a company. And they were the ladies who did the seedlings. And when the seedlings became plants and had germinated and given, you know, and had fruits and were ready to harvest, we invited the same people back. Incomes in that community went up 300%. One of the challenges about child education in Nigeria is that the farmers are very poor, and so they take their kids to help them on the farm. And when the kids finish helping them, they send them also to go and hawk. But when companies come forward and send in free extension workers and help to aggregate the farmers together and give them the inputs, and the farmers' incomes grow, the farmers are able to send their children to school. One of the biggest drivers of productivity in the world is health. And what drives your health? One big part of your health is driven by nutrients that you consume. We have different micronutrient deficiencies here and there. And so one of the big things that we do to make a big difference is consistently fortifying our products with the right micronutrients. During the COVID-19 pandemic, we supported a lot of states and a lot of communities and even arms of government. We sent palliatives. We were one of those who supported the CBN fund. We were also one of those who supported different states in donating to multiple communities, our police communities in a couple of states. We supported them because their wives' businesses were also shut down. Many of them couldn't open, and yet they had to stand on the front line protecting us and making sure that things happen. Our purpose as a company is celebrating local flavors. And how is that possible if you're not a localized company? A localized company means you're creating thousands of jobs. Our agribusiness project, for example, as we speak, is already providing over 1,000 jobs. We have built 3 iconic factories. Number 1, our cubes factories. Our manufacturing lines for cubes in Nigeria are the fastest in the world. Not the fastest in Nigeria, not the fastest in Africa. I mean the fastest machines in the world. Hence, think about the efficiency and the power savings that we have in terms of our manufacturing footprint. Number 2, our mayonnaise factory that we built in a record 7 months has the largest mayonnaise manufacturing capacity in all of sub-Saharan Africa. Number 3, when our tomato project is in all 5 phases done, it'll be the single largest tomato project in all of sub-Saharan Africa.
Okay, so let's end this with the commitment that you are making to ensure societies and communities around you are actually benefiting from GBfoods.
If we're operating in a country, if we're operating in a community, the community must also win. Whether it's a farmer, whether it's a consumer, or whether it's that little girl that needs to get an education in that place. This is the commitment that we make, and this is going to be the story that you read about us all the time.
Well, we hope to hear more of such impactful stories. Thank you so much for watching Kaleidoscope for today. Don't forget to catch up with us via social media handles scrolling on your screen. I'm Anne Nwawadu. Thanks for watching and stay safe.